Could Kyler Murray return to practice soon? Could Budda Baker? What does this all mean for the next iteration of the 2023 Arizona Cardinals as it pertains to now and the future? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Your team every day. Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Go to the YouTube channel, man. Hit subscribe, turn notifications on. Search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Thanks for being here. Everydayers, thank you. First timers, thank you. This is what it's all about. What is that? I have no idea. I don't. Sometimes I just say things and I don't ever restart podcasts. I feel like that's disingenuous. You're going to see me for my imperfections as well as, some good content sometimes at least. So Kyler Murray could come back as I'm recording this podcast. There has been no word on if he's returning to practice or not. Rumblings are that he could return soon. Rumblings are that Budda Baker could return soon. The latter probably more possible than the former. Them cutting Myjai Sanders, former third-round pick from a couple years ago, another Steve Keim beauty, opening a spot. Rumblings, Kyler Murray off the pup, Budda Baker off the IR. We'll see. But the biggest question is, what does it all mean? Okay, final segment, I'll do a little insight into the Seattle game on Sunday. It's going to be more of the same. I'll discuss that. We have crossover Thursday with Corbin Smith from Locked On Seahawks. Tomorrow, he's great. He's one of my favorites. We're interdivisional, so we do it twice a year. He's awesome. And Friday, I'll do, the full breakdown of the game itself. But this is an important next two segments about not only for this season, but for the future. And I'm going to bring up a topic that people don't really want to discuss because it looks like maybe not what it is. What does that mean? We'll do that in the second segment, okay? You have to wait about 7 minutes and 45 seconds to get there. Could Kyler Murray return to practice soon? He's been rehabbing really hard. He wants to play. Jonathan Ganon, Kyler's our guy. And this is the first uncomfortable conversation. It's going to be two. What Jonathan Ganon has done up until this point has been nothing short of great. Nothing short of amazing. And not just because he's not Cliff Kingsbury, but because in a vacuum, what he's done through an offseason and a handful of weeks of football has shifted the mindset of this organization on the field. And I think that's pretty apparent. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. This isn't a gushing over Jonathan Ganon segment. But the Cardinals look different every game than they have over the last couple of years. Win or loss, it looks different. The offense isn't great, devoid of talent. The defense isn't great, devoid of talent. But the whole aura around this team is different. It's different. And I'm not giving him a pass for them, faltering in the second half of pretty much every game this year where they were leading or close to it at halftime, aside from the Cowboys game, where they almost gave up anyways. They almost gave up the game anyways. I'm not giving anybody a pass. I'm not saying that things are 100% working. They're 1-5. But what he's done is ushered in a different way of coaching, a different way of preparing these guys for games in an effort to be competitive regardless of opponent, regardless of who's actually playing on the field, whether it be through injury, losing guys in free agent, or having your QB1 tear his ACL in December of last season and yet to see the field in 2023. With that, though, one of the things that we'd have heard from Jonathan Ganon is Kyler Murray's our guy. What we don't know is, and this is the uncomfortability, this is the existential conversation here, what we don't know is if that's the kiss of death or if that's true. We don't know yet. Everything Jonathan Gannon has said he's going to do, he's done so far. Same with Monty Ossenfort. Same with Michael Bidwell as it pertains to the NFL playing and personnel and hirings itself. I'm not talking about the things off the field. Those are things that he may have to pay a penance for at some point. The terrible workplace environment reports, allegations, the McDonough lawsuit. There are things. I'm talking about football because this is football right now. Everything Jonathan Gannon has said and everything he said he's going to do, he's done to the best of his ability with the talent he has at his disposal. Is Kyler Murray his guy he says he is? Monty Ossenfort, when Budda Baker has requested a trade, Monty Ossenfort's first thing out of his mouth was, paraphrasing, everybody should be like Budda Baker in the Arizona Cardinals organization. Would be a hell of a, hypocritical statement if they just moved him before the season started, regardless of what the outlook of 2023 was going to be, regardless of Budda Baker's age, regardless of anything. Budda Baker is the bona fide leader of this team. So they gave him guaranteed money in 2023. They added elevators and incentives in 2024. Copacetic for now. Jonathan Gannon's version of that is Kyler Murray. Obviously, a little bit more heavily weighted because he's a quarterback and not a safety. He's getting paid a lot of money, just coming off an ACL. But what people tend to forget about Kyler Murray is that he's played at a Pro Bowl level for 2 out of the 4 years that he's been here. One was his rookie year where he won Rookie of the Year, and the last one he tore his ACL. People are so quick to forget. So Jonathan Gannon has built trust in the fan base, in the team, everything. He's real, he's quirky, he's weird. That's awesome. If Kyler Murray plays a couple games this year, and this is where it gets, murky, and I'll talk about this more. I have a couple questions that need to be asked, the uncomfortable ones about Kyler Murray. This is where it gets murky, though. Say he comes back in week 9, and he plays, and they lose 3 games in a row. He looks okay. He looks good, but the defense isn't good, and the offense, he's still getting acclimated. He's still coming off an injury. Do they know already that they're rolling with Kyler Murray in 2024? If they do they need to play him this year? I know it's a question that should be yes. The answer should be yes. He wants to play. This isn't a pulling out. This isn't like Kyler Murray doesn't want to play. Kyler Murray doesn't like football. Can we put to rest that narrative, please? But the question of Jonathan Gannon saying Kyler Murray's the guy. He said it. He's our quarterback. Not very often do you become a part of a rebuild when you already have your quarterback one. Was one of the first things that Jonathan Gannon said. It was what attracted him to this job. But if, regardless of what happens in 2023, Kyler Murray plays a few games, he plays well, they win a couple games, and then they move him, that puts into question everything that's happened this year as pertaining to a head coach building trust with his organization, with the fan base, and everything in between. I don't know which way it's going to go. I'm 100% on the side that Kyler Murray is the guy for the future. At least until we see him without Cliff Kingsbury. But it's just an interesting conversation to monitor throughout the 2023 season. Trust is so important. Jonathan Gannon has built the trust already. How he and Monty Ossenfort manage the Kyler Murray situation, regardless of outcome, will be huge for their positions and the success of the Cardinals moving forward, regardless of what decision they make based upon Kyler Murray playing well, playing not well, not playing enough, whatever it is, which I'll discuss in the next segment. It's just a reset time because this is the next iteration of the 2023 season for the Cardinals because now Kyler Murray is close to returning. What are they going to do with that? Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. The uncomfortable conversation. That's next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by eBay Motors. Okay. I love eBay Motors. I wish I could say that about all of our sponsors. I mean, I can say that, but as that part of being the live read. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see if Vinny has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Drake London is starting to show why the Falcons drafted him first among the many talented wide receivers in the 2022 draft and why he was a hot sleeper in 2023 fantasy drafts. London has found his groove in the offense with Desmond Ridder, and in the past 2 weeks, he's got 15 of his 21 targets for 203 yards. He draws another good spot in Week 7 against the Buccaneers, who have struggled to contain team's number one wide receiver so far this year. London is guaranteed to keep bringing the pleasing production with great matchups ahead against the Titans, Vikings, and Cardinals before a Week 11 bye. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. So this Kyler Murray conversation is fascinating, not just because he's the quarterback, not just because the Cardinals are losing and they could use their quarterback back, but there's so many wrinkles. There's so many ripple effects to what Monty Osborne and Jonathan Gannon decide to do from here on out. It's not just, oh, yep, play him, cool. You got your guy, play him, you play your best players 100%, and I get that, and I think they should. But there is a direct correlation between the Cardinals playing Kyler Murray and their draft stock for next year. There just is. It's part of it. And the uncomfortable conversations, the uncomfortable questions, I'm just going to pose them. I don't know what these answers are, but I think that they're topical 100%. We'll get into the Seahawks game next, but I think in the middle of the week, it's more time for reflection and kind of prognosticating what could happen for the future with this team based on the decisions that are made by the front office and the coaching staff now, especially with Budda Baker and Kyler Murray set to return soon by reports. So these are a couple questions that I have. What will need to be shown by Kyler Murray for the new regime to solidify the fact that he's quarterback one for the future? Has it already been decided? What will it look like if they decide to go in a different direction? And why would they make that decision? So let's go one by one here. What will need to be shown by Kyler Murray to solidify his future with the organization as QB1? I'll wait, because this is so subjective. There's so much preconceived idea tainting of this. Like if he's their guy, it's going to be confirmation bias. Oh, yep, he made a couple throws, whatever it is. They don't have to win games for him to show that he's the guy for the future. He just, again, proof of concept. Or he has to play 8 games. He has to have these numbers. He's got to throw 16 touchdown passes in those games. He's got to rush for this. Like, is it going to be more analytics driven? Do you see how convoluted this can be? And going back to the last segment, like, I'm not knocking Jonathan Ganon for if, like, they decide to go a different way. It's like, there's a different way to approach an uncertain situation than the sheer conviction that Jonathan Gannon had that Kyler Murray was the guy for the future. And it's not sight unseen. He's played 4 damn years in the league. I don't think Jonathan Gannon would have taken this job just to have a top 5 pick next year. It just doesn't compute. So what will it need to look like for them to give the go-ahead? That's one. Has it already been decided? Going back to the last segment and then what I just said. Is it a fool's errand to already make that decision? Do they already know? I feel like that answer is a no. It's probably 70-30 yes, but they still need to see Kyler Murray's own proof of concept. What will it look like if they decide to go a different way? That's the uncomfortable question. And I don't think they will. I don't think they should. I continue to hammer that home. I think Kyler Murray's the guy. But what will it look like if they choose to go a different way? These are open-ended at this point. I mean, especially that one. And then finally, why would they make that decision? Is it gameplay? Salary cap? Is it he's not their guy? I hate that argument. I hate that argument. Good players, it doesn't matter if the new GM drafted him or not. If he's good, he'll become their guy. Doesn't matter if there's a new head coach. If the player's good, he'll become their guy. The not my guy argument, oh, we didn't draft him, so let's get rid of him. That's usually for average to below average players. Let's not get that twisted here. So for me, you've got two sides here. One, how many games do you really want to win in 2023? Let's be honest here. Two, the most important player of any NFL team is the quarterback. That's your insider info for the day, baby. Seeing Kyler Murray play at an elite level in 2023 for the long run will be much more important than crap shooting which player in the top 8 the Cardinals will most likely draft. Because they need everything. Offensive line, defensive line, corner, running back, linebacker, maybe safety. They need everything. So it's not like, you know what? There's one target that they need. They need to draft in the top 5. So sitting Kyler Murray is the prudent move that would behoove the team for the future. They don't have that. They need everything. So seeing Kyler Murray play an elite level is the most important proof of concept of all of this. So that's why I go back and forth. You know, it's like, do you sit him? Do you really sit him? It just sounds dumb. Trying to butterfly effect, right? I'm beautiful minding it right now. Hang on. Trying to butterfly effect it, where you try to change the course of the future, that's probably not right. But it's close. You know what I mean? Trying to fix what will happen in the future to your benefit rarely results in it being in your benefit. The second Kyler Murray's ready to play, go get him, K1. See what we've got here. Because remember, the Cardinals will probably have 2 top 15 picks. Pretty damn good. Wide receiver is their lowest level of need out of any other position. So the Marvin Harrison Jr. thing, that's fine. The Bears are terrible. Justin Fields is out. Carolina's terrible. They're probably going to have the top 2 picks. It's probably going to be Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. So let's just remove that from your wish list. There's so many talented players coming out in this year's draft. And the Cardinals were lucky to get another first-round pick and still get the guy that they wanted at 6. They've got a very favorable position going into the 2024 draft, regardless of where they draft. They both will be in the top 20. I mean, unless Houston goes on a tear. That's fantastic for team building for the future. Go see if Kyler Murray is really the guy. And I have a sneaking suspicion that he is going to get people realizing, oh, maybe it was Cliff Kingsbury who was the problem. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Let's do a quick peek into week 7 with Seattle. This could get ugly. I hope it doesn't. Hashtag analysis. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by BetterHelp. So I just started therapy again. And it's good for my balance, you know. As you can tell, I'm kind of a high energy, supercharged kind of guy at times. Sometimes I'm not, you know. But if you ever feel like your brain's getting in your own way, like you know what you should be doing, what's good for you, but you just can't do it, therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back. So you can work for yourself in your benefit instead of against yourself. I mean, everybody's got those thoughts, you know, those thoughts that go through your head. Am I good enough? What am I doing? What are these things, you know, over and over and over again? And it can become debilitating. And that's why therapy is so therapeutic. Come on. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. And just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. So, you know, these Kyler Murray conversations are fun. You know, it's not fun like, ooh, I can't wait to see this burn. That's not it. This is like the rebuilding of an organization. And trying to determine what Kyler Murray needs to do in an effort to solidify his QB1 status for the future, it's fascinating. It's so fragile, too. It's so fragile. And I'm not even talking about if they make the right decision. I'm not even talking about that. It's the way they go about the first really major decision Monty Osborne and Jonathan Gannon are going to have to make. And it's not, again, getting it right obviously is important, but it's the way in which they figure out the best path for their organization for the future. That's the fascinating part. I hope Kyler Murray comes in, balls out, and then this is going to be a funny conversation to look back on 6 months from now or a year from now, whatever it is. But there's just so much unknown. The timing of this was just awful. And obviously you never want your quarterback, let alone any NFL player, to get injured. The timing of all of it was just the worst. If there was a ranking of the worst timing, this was it. Looking at week 7, the cornerback room is going to be under a microscope again. We'll see as I'm recording this. I don't know. We don't know if Budda Baker is going to return to practice. Jalen Thompson, questionable. This could be very problematic. Now, I've said that for a couple of different games this year. I've said it namely with Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp. Both of those were, ended up being problematic, even though the Cardinals were in contention during the first half of both games. Like, the best friend of the cornerback room for the Cardinals is the pass rush. And the pass rush they've shown steam in the first half of games and then dissipated. Shown steam in the first half of games and then dissipated. That's kind of the story of the Cardinals year so far. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba had his career high in receiving yards last week. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, Noah Fant. I'm sure they've got tight ends, abound. Their defense is good. This is going to be a true test to see if the Cardinals can continue to remain competitive. The one thing the Cardinals haven't done this year is gone down 24-0 at halftime. They've been in contention. The San Francisco game is loosely defined, but they've been in contention for pretty much every game this year, if not leading at halftime, which they have for a chunk of them. There is no rational world where the Cardinals should be leading at halftime against any of the teams that they've played. That's preparation, that's coaching, that's desire, that's teamwork. That's the proof of concept that we need to see this year, and that's what we're seeing. And I see in my comments a lot, like, Jonathan Gannon sucks, Drew Petzing sucks, Nick Roush doesn't know what he's doing. Watch the games. Compare this to what we've seen over the last couple of years. The blind hatred for the new, I don't get it. They're not perfect. But I would much rather have this group than the last 4 seasons of coaching. Not close. Cardinals are scrappy. When was the last time you said the Cardinals under Cliff Kingsbury were scrappy? Never. It's as simple as that. They're building from scratch without their quarterback, without both of their safeties healthy, without a true CB2, let alone CB1, with no real, edge rush pressure. The Dennis Gardeck experiment was fun for a few games. This team is winging it talent-wise. And they're staying in contention. They're leading at halftime. This is not something that bad teams traditionally do. The Cardinals are a good team wrapped in a bad talent costume. All it takes is quarterback coming back and infusing talent next season. You're going to hear me say that a lot because it needs to be repeated countless times. I just want people to appreciate watching the change happen and not just expecting the result 3 years sooner than it's going to be here. Crossover Thursday with Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks tomorrow. It's going to be really fun. Corbin's one of my boys. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. We will talk to you tomorrow.